gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. Face in your face.
What the hell is going on down there?
Face in your face.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Latina Diaspora. For the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with the channel or watching this channel for the first time, what we discuss here is issues pertaining to Latinos, particularly Latinos currently residing in the United States. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on Facebook and YouTube. I also need to let everybody know that the subscriber mode has been enabled for 5 minutes. Meaning, if you are not a subscriber and if you wish to enter a comment in the chat, you will need to be a subscriber for at least 5 minutes. I see here we only had someone in the chat. Good evening, Don Amanda. Thank you very much for stopping by. So, as always, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who have already subscribed to the channel. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who allow me to enter into your devices and those who watch from the clouds, even the haters. Of course, I have my main channel, which is Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron, where I talk about everyday issues when we try to seek logical solutions. Okay. So, with that being said, tonight's episode is going to be how are Latinos affected by racism. That's something that virtually every ethnic group has had to deal with it to various degrees. So we're going to have a discussion about it. Now, before we get into discussion, just like in my other channel, we're going to have another session of In My Words on this platform. Of course, everyone is aware that within the last week or so, there's been a lot of changes in the election season. First of all, Joe Biden has made his decision not to seek re-election, but he will complete his term as president. And he has endorsed Kamala Harris, who by all intents and purposes will be the Democratic candidate for president. Okay. Now, with the fact that she's becoming most likely the Democratic candidate, there's been a lot of enthusiasm towards her campaign. And she has raised a good sum of money. So far, she has raised, I believe it's $200 million, okay? And it's been changes. You know, we've gone from a campaign where it looks like Donald Trump will become successful and become the 47th president of the United States. Looks like it's a race where it's too close to call. So by all indicators, it's going to be an extremely close election. In in most of the key battleground states, Kamala Harris is either ahead or tied with Donald Trump. So of course we have about 3 months before election day. So anything can happen. Okay. Now, one thing that we noticed that many Republicans are very disappointed in regards to Donald Trump's pick as running mate. First of all, um, they have not gotten the bounce of the whole for. And also, there have been many moments where J.D. Vance has said things that were unfortunate, particularly referring to single childless women as cat ladies. Okay, that remarks like that might come back to bite, them, particularly considering the fact that many of the women that have been insulted were Republican women. And of course, we must bear in mind that in about 3 weeks, we'll have the Democratic National Convention. And at some point, Kamala Harris will pick her running mate. Okay. And of course, there's been a lot of speculation regarding who that person will be. We don't know, but we will know definitely by the time of the Democratic National Convention. I will continue devoting um, streams on my main channel regarding the election. And this Saturday, I'm going to be doing something that I've never done before, do a Saturday night stream on my main channel, which the topic would be does Donald Trump fear debating Kamala Harris? Okay. It seems like Donald Trump is trying to avoid having the debates with her. Okay. One thing we must bear in mind that first of all, Kamala Harris is considered younger than Joe Biden, a good 20 years. And also, from what I've seen, she's very intelligent and she is an excellent debater, something that Donald Trump fears. So it's going to be interesting to see what transpires. Now, as far as my health is concerned, my health is improving. Um, my left knee is getting stronger, and I have transitioned from a walker to a cane, and I hope within a couple of weeks, able to walk without the aid of a cane at all. Um, of course, it's no accident because I have done the things I needed to do. I had to lose weight. I lost about 40 pounds. I've been exercising 3 times a day, and now I'm undergoing outpatient therapy. So, so in my words will be a permanent feature on this channel as well, where I'm going to give you my thoughts regarding things that I perceive to be very important. So, with that being said, we're going to get into the main topic. So, as you can see by the thumbnail, the topic is how Latinos affected by racism. Now, one thing we have to understand that racism in various forms exists in this country through most of its history. Okay. Unfortunately, this country has had a negative history dealing with people who are different. Okay. And it all started with the Africans who came as slaves. It also has to do with dealing with the so-called indigenous people, how Europeans have looked at the so-called indigenous people with contempt, and they consider to be inferior to them. Also, throughout history, where various ethnic groups have faced discrimination. So it is one of the sad chapters of this country. And we have to go back to the Constitution, where a black person was considered three-fifths of a human being. Unfortunately, you have certain people that are very ignorant when it comes to Latinos. And automatically assume that if you are a Latino, that you're undocumented. Okay. What they fail to understand that what's now known as the western and southwest portion of the United States, and also Florida, um, were first the territory of Spain, and then, for the most part, the territory of Mexico. Okay, of which, unfortunately, well, Mexico lost, Southwest. So, okay, it looks like it's going to be one of those nights where the Wi-Fi is acting up. So just a bit bear with me. So, with that being said, one of the okay, how you deal with racism is to educate what it is and why does it exist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. Oops, sorry, just give me a moment. Let's try this again. Okay. Now, before I continue, let me state that the link to join the panel has been pinned. Should anyone wishes to join, to hit the link and join the panel, they're welcome to do so. Let me just state for the record that if I never see you before, if I never heard from you before, I will insist that you come out from the backstage for the purposes, so that way no one can be tempted to flash anything inappropriate, which would cause the people of YouTube to take down the stream. So now this is an article which I saw in American Psychological Association, and the name of that was based and related to stress in the Latino American community. Okay. I'm just going to say Latino because I'm not going to get into the Latino / whatever. Okay. Latino Americans encounter some of the most harmful and hurtful stereotypes in the United States, which cast Latinos as both hardworking and efficient, yet undeserving of the jobs and space they occupy within American society. Some justify this treatment, though, through prejudice notions, racist ideologies, and negative sentiments claiming that Latino Americans' population drain both the American economy and American identity. Stresses brought on by the stereotypes, prejudice, and bigotry affect how Latinos interact in the world around them, the spaces they feel comfortable in, and opportunities are afforded in society. Perceived racial discrimination has been associated with several negative mental health outcomes, including higher psychological distress, self-deletion, addiction, state anxiety, trait anxiety, and depression. The aforementioned is disparaging considering many Latino Americans have mixed indigenous heritage and many Native American ancestries, making them some of the oldest inhabitants on the continent. Latino and Hispanic Americans can come from diverse backgrounds and origins, including European, African, and Asian ancestry, which can make it harder for them to form a concrete ethnic identity. These differences in race, gender, and national origin have been shown to complicate the shape Latino experience of intimate partner violence, and furthermore, the discussion of domestic violence in Latino communities would not be complete without considering the economic, social, and political factors that affect their lives. Immigrant women are more vulnerable to domestic violence and other forms of dating violence due to the dynamics of being in a relationship where one partner can have physical, financial, or judicial power over another through the threat of deportation. 1 in 5 Hispanic teens surveyed in the dating violence among Latino adolescents survey were found to have been the victim of dating violence, with 13% of those teenagers experiencing psychological abuse. 10% of youth have endured multiple forms of dating violence, have been a victim of dating violence, or experienced violence from someone who was not their romantic partner. As a result, oops, let me as okay, just give me a minute. Okay, let me just read it. I'm sorry, I just lost my place. 1 in 5 Hispanic teens surveyed in the dating violence among Latino and adolescents survey were found to be victims of dating violence, with 50% of the teenagers experienced psychological abuse. 10% of youth have endured multiple forms of dating violence and have been victims of dating violence or experienced violence from someone who was not the woman. As the number of romantic relationships of teenagers have increased, as did the risk of dating violence or victimhood. In honor of National Hispanic Latino Heritage Month, the Ethnicity and Health in America series is raising awareness about the psychological and social impact of stress and racism in the United States. This month, we are featuring the work of Carlos Cuevas, PhD, and Sabina Chivada, PhD, two psychologists examining the effects of stress due to intimate partner violence in the lives of Latino and Hispanic Americans. And these are some, and this is a biological background regarding the two. So, so we got a pocket here. Just give me a moment. So unfortunately, and part of the reason why exists is, of course, many Latinos, particularly Latinos that are immigrants, feel reporting their their crimes in a fear of being deported. Okay, that's what. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share another article. Just give me a moment. Let's see. I'm probably not going to stay long. Just, just give me a moment. Okay. Now now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some statistical data in regards to this topic. Just give me a moment. Now, this article that I'm going to share for you comes from the Pew Research Center, and it's a report dated November 4th, 2021, which we make it in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, here's something that it's troubling. Half of U.S. Latinos experienced some sort of discrimination during the first year of the pandemic. During the first 12 months of the COVID-19 pandemic, more than half, 54% of Latinos said they experienced at least one or 8 specific forms of discrimination, according to the March 2021 survey of Latino adults. However, experiences with discrimination vary not only by skin color, age, and partisanship. In the national survey, respondents were asked whether or not they had been called offensive names because they are Hispanic, been criticized for speaking Spanish in public, heard a remark from someone that they should go back to their home country, personally experienced discrimination or have been treated unfairly because of their background by someone who is Hispanic and someone who is not Hispanic, been unfairly stopped by police. Police acted as though they were not smart and fear for their personal safety. Survey respondents were asked if someone express support of them because they're Hispanic. This is not an exhaustive list. Discrimination experiences. Some Hispanics who said no to all still have experienced some sort of discrimination captured by the survey. So that's okay. So here is, so as you indicated, so as you see here, 54% of U.S. Latinos have experienced some form of discrimination during the first year of the pandemic. And here are some statistical data. Those who are darker skinned experience 64% of darker skinned Latinos stated that they experienced some form of discrimination, as compared to 54% of lighter skinned Latinos. Now, when it comes to Latinos that was foreign born, that is born outside of the United States, 58% of them had stated they experienced some form of discrimination, as compared to 51% of Latinos born in the United States. And here, these are the various different age groups, okay? So from the age group ages 18 to 29, 62% of Latinos have indicated they experienced some sort of racism or discrimination. From the ages 30 to 49, 50%, 7% of Latinos stated that they experienced some form of discrimination. Among the Latinos ages 50 to 64, 48% of them stated that they experienced some form of discrimination. And then those who are 65 and older, 38% of Latinos stated that they had experienced some form of discrimination. Now, the next is based on education. When they said, okay, as far as less than high school, those who have a less than high school education, 56% of Latinos stated that they experienced some form of discrimination. And that would refer to those who did not complete high school. Among those who did complete high school, 49% of them indicated that they had experienced some form of discrimination. And among those who have at least completed some college education, some portion of the college education, or completed it, that could be anything from an associate degree or bachelor's degree, or even a master's degree. 50%, 7% of the Latinos have experienced some form of discrimination. Now, as far as party affiliation, among those Latinos that are either Republican or leaning Republican, 45% of the Latinos had expressed that they experienced some form of discrimination, while those who are Democratic or lean Democratic, 60% of them stated that they experienced some form of discrimination. Experiences in discrimination from the year prior to the survey is linked to skin color. Nearly two-thirds, 64% of Latinos of darker skin said they experienced at least one of the 8 forms of discrimination, compared to 54% of Latinos with lighter skin. Even so, at least half of each group experienced some form of discrimination in the first year of the pandemic. Other demographic characteristics are also linked with discrimination experiences. Latinos under 50 were more likely to report experiences of discrimination than Latinos over 50. Roughly 6 in 10 Latino ages, 18 to 29, and 50% of Latinos ages 30 to 49 experienced at least one form of discrimination in the 12 months prior to the survey. By comparison, roughly half, 48% of Latino ages 50 to 64, experienced discrimination, and about 4 in 10 Latinos ages 65 or older experienced discrimination. Now, here states Hispanics experience discrimination from Hispanics and Hispanics alike. Now, some people will think that's kind of odd, but unfortunately, you do have some Latinos who are racist regarding those who are either from different countries or national identity or phenotype. Among the 8 discrimination experiences asked about the survey, most common experience reported Latino adults were people that were not smart. More than 1/3 of Latinos, which is 35%, this happened to them in the 12 months prior to the survey. Latinos who are bilingual are more likely to say they've been treated this way than those who are dominant Spanish speakers and those who are dominant English speakers. Okay. The second most common discrimination experience is coming from other people. But notably, Hispanics say they personally experience discrimination from Hispanics and non-Hispanics alike. About 3 out of 10 Hispanics, 31%, say they personally experience discrimination, were treated unfairly because of their Hispanic background by someone who is not Hispanic, while 27% personally experience discrimination, were treated unfairly by someone who is Hispanic. And here, and this bar graph breaks it down with at least 54% of Latinos had experienced at least one form of discrimination. And as far as being looked upon as people that were not very smart, 35% of Latinos have faced this type of discrimination. So I'm just gonna, so these are some of the other forms of discrimination. One of them is being criticized for speaking Spanish, which is 23%. And 21% of Latinos were told to go back to their country. 21% of Latinos fear for their personal safety. 20% have been called offensive names. I'm not going to utter any of those names because there are many, and I'm just not going to repeat it. And 9% of Latinos have been unfairly stopped by the police, and 30% of Latinos heard expression of support. Good evening, Irby. Thank you very much for stopping by. So tonight's topic is like how Latinos are affected by racism. Okay. However, this gap is wider with some Latino demographic subgroups than others. For example, those Latinos with college experiences, which is 35%, say they experience discrimination from someone who is not Hispanic, while 26% say they experience discrimination from someone who is Hispanic. A 9% point gap. By comparison, some Latinos with less than a high school diploma experience discrimination from someone who is not Hispanic, while 32% they experience discrimination from someone who is Hispanic. Among other discrimination experiences tested in the survey, about 1 in 5 Hispanics told they will go back to the country, were criticized for speaking Spanish, or were called offensive names. Hopefully, these are little change in the 2019 survey of Hispanic adults conducted before the pandemic. The current survey was found that 21% say they fear for their personal safety, and 9% say they were unfairly stopped by the police. Yeah, it is true. And a lot of it, unfortunately, is ignorance. Despite these experiences with discrimination, 3 in 10 Latinos say someone has expressed support for them because of their Latino background, finding that remains unchanged from the 2019 survey when 30% say the same. Yep, stereotypes. Yep. Now, unfortunately, Latinos with darker skin experience more discrimination than Latinos with lighter skin. Skin color is connected to discrimination experience with Latinos, according to the survey, while 54% of Latinos with lighter skin experience at least one of the 8 incidents of the measure in this survey. Nearly 2/3 of Latinos with darker skin experience the same. And to the right is some statistical data, which I'm not going to break it down. But the gap in experience in skin color extends across discrimination experiences. Asked about the survey. For example, yep, that's colorism. I agree. For example, while 3 in 10 Hispanics with lighter skin personally experience discrimination because of their background from someone who's not Hispanic, 42% of Hispanics with darker skin color personally experience the same. Similarly, a quarter of Hispanics with lighter skin report personally experience discrimination from someone who is also Hispanic, while 41% of Hispanics with darker skin color report experiencing the same. Although Latinos with darker skin are more likely than Latinos in lighter skin to experience each of the 8 incidents, they're also more likely than Latinos with lighter skin color to say someone expressed support for them. Some 41% of Latinos of darker skin say they expression support in the year prior to the survey, while 28 Latino with lighter skin say they have heard the same. Okay. Now, as far as Latinos, okay, younger Latinos experiencing discrimination. Younger Latinos are more likely to say they experience discrimination than older Latinos, according to the survey. For each of the 8 measures of discrimination, Latinos under 50 are more likely than Latinos who are 50 or to say that this thing happened to them. For some of the measures, there is a gradual decrease of age increase. For example, excuse me, just give me a minute. Okay, I'm sorry. About 4 in 10 Latino ages 8 to 29 and 30 to 49 said that people acted they were not smart. This share drops to 31% of Latinos ages 50 to 64, but only 19% of Latinos 65 or older acted like they were not smart. Okay. Part of the reason the different experiences may be related to skin color. Younger Hispanics are more likely to say they have darker skin than older Hispanics. Some 16% of Hispanics ages 18 to 29 and 70% of those ages 30 to 49 indicate they have darker skin. By comparison, 11 of Hispanics ages 50 to 64 and 10% of Latin Hispanics 65 and older indicate the same about their skin color. Even controlling the skin color, Hispanics more likely to report one of the 8 discriminating experiences happened to them in the 12 months prior to the survey. And I'm going to park it here. So I'm going to just catch up. Now, what troubles me is when you have anyone, particularly politicians, that state racism does not exist in this country. Now, that is denial to the first degree, because unfortunately, racism has existed in this country throughout the history of the United States. Okay. If you take a look, first of all, with the African Americans, okay, for 250 years, they were brought as slaves. They were deprived of their identity. They were deprived of their freedom. They were deprived of their culture. Okay. The women, many of them experienced rape by their Caucasian masters, which as a result, you had millions of mixed offspring who were treated as slaves. Okay. Also, you have the interaction with the so-called indigenous people, where we virtually violated every conceivable treaty that we made with them. In the 19th century, there was a huge anti-Irish settlement, also an anti-Catholic settlement here in the United States. And then when the Chinese came, there was a lot of discrimination with the Chinese. Okay. And there was a great deal of xenophobia because, again, unfortunately, this country has a long history of not dealing well with people who are different. And there are other examples. I mean, during World War II, where we took Japanese American and we placed them in internment camps. Why? Because of some xenophobic no, fear that they will betray us and fight in the side with the Japanese. Even when it comes to the treatment of the LGBTQ plus community. Now let me state, I have many disagreements regarding that community, particularly when it comes to marriage and things of that nature. But my philosophy has been, as long as they don't impose their values on anyone, they can live whatever lives that they see fit, and they can love who they love. Okay. And unfortunately, after 9/11, there was exaggerated fear regarding Muslims and the Arab community. Why? Because unfortunately, a group of Arab fanatics decided to perform acts of terrorism, of which led to destruction of the Twin Towers, led to the Pentagon being damaged, and plane crashing somewhere in Pennsylvania. Okay. The fact of the matter is, the majority of the Muslim community, the majority of the Arab community are law-abiding citizens. Okay. But unfortunately, because of an act of a few people, entire communities were meant to suffer the consequences of a few. Okay. And also part of the reason why discrimination exists is because of ignorance. People who don't know anything about ethnic groups, who for whatever reason do not bother to take the time to find out what they are, who they are. Okay. And when you're ignorant, you are susceptible to stereotypes. Okay. And of course, we have also the stereotypes. Not just when it comes to Latinos, but stereotypes when it comes to the African American community, stereotypes when it comes to Asian people, stereotypes when it comes to people from the Middle East, and stereotypes when it comes to mixed people, which consists of okay. Now, please forgive me if I don't remember each category because sometimes I mean you have mulattoes, you have Creoles, you have Blasians, you have MGM, you have MLS, and you have all sorts of mixed people. Okay. And unfortunately, ignorance breeds stereotypes, and ignorance, makes it possible to discriminate. In others, prejudge without knowing all the facts. Okay. Now, for me, what I do is I deal with each person as an individual. Okay. And I deal with them based on their conduct, not their skin color, not their ethnicity, not their religious affiliation, not by their sexual identity or lack of, but I deal with them as individuals. Okay? Because I was taught to deal with each person as individuals. Okay? And I was also taught that instead of making statements about people that I do not know anything about, to try to learn as much as I can and to ask questions. Okay. And contrary to what some people think, there's nothing wrong to admit that you don't know. And there's nothing wrong with asking legit questions. Okay. For example, when I started dealing with the biracial and multiracial community, I had to ask a lot of questions because truly there's a lot of things I don't know about. Okay. And I don't believe in judging people based on what others people say. I believe in dealing with people as individuals and individuals only. And of course, there are those that that paint Latinos in a extremely negative light. Why? Because ignorance, because they don't know anything about it. And again, I mean, you have certain stereotypes, and people are just plain ignorant. You say that you're Puerto Rican. If you say that, for example, you're Puerto Rican, and the next question is, where in Mexico is Puerto Rico? I get lost for you. Puerto Rico, it's in the Caribbean. Mexico is in Central America. Okay. And one thing we have to bear in mind, Latinos are not a monolith. You have Latinos that come from the Caribbean, which consists of Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic. And then you have Latinos that come from Central America, which consists of Mexico and the smaller Central American nations. And you have Latinos from South America. And one thing we all have to bear in mind that while we all speak Spanish, while we all have a huge Catholic influence because um, in the beginning, most of us was practicing Catholics, and still many of us still practice Catholicism. There are differences. There are cultural differences with Latinos in the Caribbean, with Latinos in Central America and South America. Part of it has to do with culture, part of it has to do with history. Okay? For example, Latinos from Central America and South America gained their independence from Spain at various times within the 19th century. Cuba, on the other hand, um, did not become an independent nation until the 20th century. The Dominican Republic had fought at least two wars for independence and for independent determination. And as far as Puerto Rico is concerned, we have never been an independent nation. Okay, we was a colony of Spain for 400 years, and then we became okay. Okay, officially Puerto Rico is a commonwealth of the United States, but for all intents and purposes, we are a colony. Okay, we are unable to vote when it comes to who's going to be the president of the United States. Okay, uh, our representative in Congress is basically an observer. That person cannot vote. And in order for that person to speak, they have to be granted permission to speak. So while we have a representative in Congress, a Congress, it basically, the person is a glorified spectator. So now I have been talking for almost an hour. Okay. Should anyone wishes to join the panel, the link has been pinned. If anyone wishes to comment further, they may do so. Otherwise, I will call this a night. Okay. But the reason why I have the discussion because the fact discrimination does exist and it comes in various forms. Some of it has to do with what is your phenotype. There's also a perception that we are not U.S. citizens, that we don't have the right to live here. Some of us have been told to go back to their countries. Okay. When it comes to the Chicanos, that's impossible because basically we, the United States, took their land from Mexico. Let's keep it real. Okay. And of course, some people are going to get upset because I'm discussing the topic. But look, what we have to understand is that discrimination and racism is an unfortunate chapters of our history. Okay. And you know the saying, those of you who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it. And if we ever going to address the issue of discrimination, we have to have the discussion. We cannot pretend that it does not exist. We cannot bury it our heads in the sand. We have to acknowledge that discrimination does exist in order to rectify the problem. And the ultimate goal is that each individual be evaluated not because of their country of origin, not because of their sexual identity, not regarding their phenotype, not regarding what is their party affiliation, but on the strength of their character. That's how we should. That's how we should evaluate each person. Okay. Now, let me just state what's going to be the topic. Just give me a moment. Okay, so let me just, oops, sorry. Let me just give you the topics where I'm going to be talking for the rest of the week. So tomorrow I'm going to talk about why cyberbullying. I have to rename it. Why cyberbullying exists. Okay, what is the motivation? And that's going to be held tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And on Saturday, I'm going to do something that I rarely ever do, is do a Saturday night stream. And the question is Donald Trump afraid of Kamala Harris? There are many people that think that he is for various reasons. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a discussion. Okay. And part of the reason why that exists is because when Joe Biden was the Democratic candidate, um, he agreed with Biden to have two debates. The first one was done last month. The second one to be done in September. Okay, now that Joe Biden has dropped out of the race for re-election, and now indication that Kamala Harris will be the Democratic candidate. Now he's trying to get out of it. Okay, or change to what he perceives to be a more friendlier network, which is Fox. So we have to wait. So we should wait and see whether or not there's going to be further debates. Okay. I will say this much: it's going to be a very close election. Okay. We're not going to have an election where one person gets 300 or more electoral votes and the other person gets 230 something. It's going to be a very close election, and which, in my humble opinion, it is very important that you vote. Even though we know that it's determined by the Electoral College, the fact of the matter is when you don't vote, you're in essence enabling the person that you don't want to win. So most, I would say most people will catch this on the playback, which is perfectly fine. No, maybe okay. What I might do for next week, um, push the stream to 10 o'clock and see if that generates more of an audience. And I think I need to do a little bit of a better job um, announcing this channel. But in any case, I'll figure it out. So so as I stated, the topic is how Latinos affected by racism, and they're affected based on age, phenotype, party affiliation, and other, including sexual identity. So I will be live tomorrow night at 10 o'clock. It's going back to the topic regarding cyberbullying. Okay. Now, with the upcoming weeks, I'm going to have more political discussion. Um, and whenever there's any updates regarding my health, I will share it here. So at this point, I'm going to call this a night. But I do appreciate those who will watch it, either watch it live or on the playback. And of course, you're all more than welcome to enter your comments after the stream is over. Please bear in mind, if you say anything disrespectful, those comments are going to be deleted either by myself or by YouTube, okay? Because here, everyone has a right to express themselves as they see fit, but just as important, everyone has the right to be respected. So, with that being said, hopefully I'll see you tomorrow night on my main channel. So, with that being said, This has been another episode of Latino Diaspora. Wishing all of you good night, take care, and peace.
Be strong.